Is there any unexplored land left on this earth
That's never been seen by a human being.
Our guest tonight, it's time for
My brother's brother.
My brother's brother.
My brother's brother.
it's time.
My brother's
I think it's quite stunning.
Hello and welcome to My Brother's Brother. I'm my brother's brother, Darren. This is my brother, Ryan. Say hello, Ryan.
Hello. Hello.
We're going to get that. We're going to get that better. You got to come with it here.
Hi. What's happening? I'm a little shy.
All right. I feel like I have to do this every time because there's people who only listen to this show, and I have to, you keep switching it up and keeping it fresh every episode. Episode 4, Ryan is looking so good. God damn. I mean, the backdrop, top floor penthouse view from over the skyline of the city, and then ski mask. Oh, it's so good, man. Okay.
Can't let the ops know where I'm at.
Yep, fair enough. I wanted to bring up something that's not really relevant to this show or the themes that we usually do, and I've just been laughing about it so hard recently, and I wanted to bring it up, and we don't have to stay on it, but you're good at burning me and others. You're smart, funny, and witty. And the last time I saw you, one of the first things you said to me, you looked down at my shoes. Remember what you said?
No, I don't, dude. I don't remember half the shit I say.
You said, "Did you make those?" That's like so good. I don't know how that hasn't been like since the 90s. We've been burning each other with that. Like, did you make those? I mean, clearly, the joke was they looked very fucking handmade.
Yeah, I don't even remember saying that. It must have
It's
just
good.
came
I
off the
remember
top
it.
of my
It's
head.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. I got you. So,
What were
it's
they?
just,
The chimney sweeper sandals you have? The ones that look like
yeah,
your...
exactly.
Yeah.
Chimney sweeper sandals. That's what they're called. Well, so I wanted to go into, I think it's topical since tomorrow is Thanksgiving, banging food, bullshit holiday. I was wondering, do you think that, you're aware that Thanksgiving's bullshit, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think most people nowadays are. I
No.
mean, is
But I was
is
wondering,
that even a thing? Do people
no, I'm
really...
not. Yeah, no, I'm not going to say it's a conspiracy or anything like that. But it leads into kind of just what I think the theme of this show has been, and I think it's curious to think of the topics we've talked about and how everyone takes them for granted that nuclear bombs are real, that we landed on the moon, all these things that we hear as stories, that we're told stories through
Yeah.
our whole life from an early age, and we don't question them at all.
Yeah. Right.
Obviously, Thanksgiving is one of those through school, through the indoctrination system, all that stuff. The most fucking whitewashed storyline ever. Pilgrims, Indians, they shared a meal together. All that bullshit. It does kind of go into what you talk about a lot, where I don't think that I'm starting to believe that it's not so hard to believe that we didn't land on the moon if Thanksgiving was a lie. And so I started to kind of trace that in my mind. Huh? See, my mind's opening up here.
That's a really good thought pattern you're doing. That's super critical thinking, and that's super important for people to do what you just did there, putting the pieces together. And I never even thought about it that way. But Jesus, you're touching on a base lie that we're all told to take for granted and we actually celebrate. But when you get to the core of it, it's a really big lie that hurts a lot
Huge.
of people.
Huge, yes. And it's
Yeah.
done only to erase the history,
Yeah.
which is what a lot of the things we talk
His
about do.
story.
His story, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really special to be thinking, I'm feeling like, oh, goddamn, if Thanksgiving's a lie, then, you can just domino effect the whole thing. But I was wondering, like, the idea of that we all collectively perpetuate these lies and these stories. And now we're in a time where it seems like there's things that are starting to kind of fracture a bit, and the storylines are starting to kind of like come apart. And with the new administration and how divisive and controversial these figures are that are coming to power, and whether or not they're going to be good, bad, that's up for everyone's own opinion. But that it's pulling apart all the bullshit, and the things that have gone on for a really long time are starting to kind of unravel, and people are really uncomfortable about that. Like, even just the history of the United States, like, we're uncomfortable with acknowledging the fact that we came over and just took over an entire culture and fucked them over. So
Right.
it would be the same with whatever else is being unraveled at this point. We don't want to hear it. We'd rather think
Yeah.
it's pilgrims and Indians.
Right. Right. But,
Yeah.
you still got to eat. So...
You still
You
got to have
know,
turkey.
I think for me and other people, it's who's really discussing the history of it on the day. It's getting off of work, it's getting together with family, having a few beers, laying back, enjoying each other's company. I think that's really what most people are looking forward to. And then the traditions that come with it, what you eat and stuff like that. That's all part of the marketing scheme to get you to spend money on an artificial holiday. Because at the end of the day, what have we discovered through the last couple episodes? That basically all these conspiracies or these just lies are money based. It's at the end of the day that it's to generate money, which is absurd because if that's what we're chasing as human species, we're never going to ascend. Like I always talk about, we
Yep.
need to be chasing spirituality and helping our neighbors out and doing things that are fundamentally good, not chasing a piece of paper. It's ridiculous that that's even a thing.
It's big turkey, really, for this one here. They're just trying to get you to buy a bird that you don't otherwise buy throughout the rest of the year. I mean,
Yes.
to try to pull that one apart a little bit more. Like, I guess there's some nationalism that's built into that storyline, and to say that we are these altruistic, former enslaved or former citizens of a country where we didn't agree with what was going on, and we left and we fled, and we vowed to start a new country that's built on fundamental values of morality and goodness and freedom and liberty and all this bullshit, while all the while we came over and did all the opposite things to an entire culture and was like, hey, starting now, we're going to do that. And
Yeah.
it's absolutely ridiculous to have, allegiance. I don't know if we talked about this in any of these episodes, but the Pledge of Allegiance is something that still just like irks me. And I forget that that's a
And then
thing that
don't
happens.
forget the next part, to the republic for which it stands. A
Tell
little
me a little bit
interesting.
more about
Well,
that.
I don't know a whole lot, but look it up. I mean, it's just interesting that the word that they chose was to the republic. It sounds very Star Warish.
It
I
does. Yeah.
mean,
And to
we're
pledge it.
alleging ourselves to a republic. Sorry to cut you off.
No. It's fine. I mean, I think you pull apart that pledge at all, and the fact that it doesn't send like alarm bells off of thinking that we're doing that to children at such an early age, and to do that without the knowledge of what I don't remember being told, okay, so now you're gonna pledge your allegiance, like to have it explained to a young child and go, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Just put your hand on your heart and look at the flag, stand the fuck up and pledge your allegiance every single day. Isn't a pledge once? You don't like get married every single day. You pledge your allegiance to your partner and you're done. The fact that you do that every single day, it just drives me nuts. And
Do
the
they still do that
Yeah.
in public schools? They still do
Yes.
that?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Isn't that wild? And I remember when I was in high school, I tried to be my little fucking anarchist self, and I didn't stand up one day, and my teacher came and like got really close to my ear, and he was like, "You have a constitutional right to not stand up, but it would be a lot better if you did." Basically,
Now get the out of my.
can you not make a hard time for me? And so I ended up doing it. I don't think I put my hand on my heart though.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It was weird. It's weird, and you're all saying it in sync. It's like, it's like kind of Nazi Germany type,
Yeah.
like
Yes.
or North. No, I'm sorry, I shouldn't even say that. North Korea, more and more like North Korea, where they all have to pledge every day to the supreme leader, and
Yep.
you know.
Yeah.
It
It's
is
not
weird when
far
you
off.
think about it. I never really thought about it. And then the Star
Yeah.
Spangled Banner, you got to stand up and wait
Well,
for
that's a
that to
banger.
get. That's a banger.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one to pull off.
Yeah, just that I think the things in relation to the Pledge of Allegiance and national holidays is for me the pushback I always have is like, why do I have to do this? Because I'm here? Because I didn't sign it. I didn't agree to anything. I guess maybe by being a citizen of the United States, you agree in some form to acknowledge and recognize these things. But around like holidays, like you said, I think it's obvious that we all like most of our national holidays are just basically the day that a worker bee gets to take off. Like, you go, okay, you get to have your day off and get fucked up and watch football and eat your food, but come back tomorrow or on Monday. And the fact that there's no culture built into any of this stuff, like I feel like we are a cultureless country. None of our holidays mean anything to us other than fuck yeah, we get the day off, or oh shit, the bank is closed, or something inconvenient like that. It's just I don't know. I take issue with the whole fucking
I think
system.
you're looking at it from a very pessimistic view,
Yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
I think that you're missing some things there. There is a lot of culture, depending on what family. Our family didn't have a lot, but go to a Puerto Rican family; they have tons of culture.
They're
You know,
not
they
they're
have
not Americans. I mean,
Puerto Rico is how dare you? Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory.
territory. Yeah, that
Yes.
feels a little different.
Well, I'm just saying, you don't need a passport to go to Puerto Rico.
They have indigenous practices and things that go
Yeah,
much older than the 400 years we've been here in
yeah.
this, where we haven't developed any of our own cultures.
No, I
Our
know
culture
this,
is
but what I'm
consumerism.
s- but what I'm saying is we've all agreed to pick a particular day where all cultures and walks of life, like America is, a melting pot it is, and we make it a national holiday so we can all do gatherings together. How you choose to celebrate, that's on your own. If you want to choose celebrating slaughtering of Indians, that's your American right to go ahead and do that. And I shouldn't even say Indians, Native Americans.
Thank you.
But my point being is that that's your right to do that in your home. If you want to teach your children what the truth is on that particular day and then go have turkey, then do that. That's what's great about America. It's how you want to shape it. Just because the powers that be are telling you a story doesn't mean you have to go along with it. I certainly don't. I don't believe it. They can push it all they want. I'm not going to believe it. And it's your choice to fall into the hype. You know, maybe you want to have pizza that day. Have pizza. Do whatever you want. Have Chinese food. Who's saying you have to have turkey? You have to go stand in line at the grocery store and get all the traditional fixings. Who's judging you? If your
Well,
family's
no, I
judging
mean,
you, then
yeah, I agree. I agree, but I think it's the unconscious nature of, I guess the frustration I have is that
sheep.
people, yeah, sheep, exactly. Yeah, that they don't think outside the box and they don't question it, and it becomes a thing that there is probably tension where it's like, you didn't get a turkey? Like, well, we do turkey, and then it becomes an issue for people. And I think that's where it bothers me, is that people aren't just, calling bullshit on more things. And I'm a fucking Grinch. I'm a bah humbug.
Yeah.
Like, all this stuff. I recognize that. Like, I just get annoyed with the fact that we're not doing anything that feels like we did it on our own. We're doing it because it was told to us.
Yes, and you have to look at things through other people's perspective and thought patterns. You know, I understand where you're coming from, but certain things mean other things to other people, and you have to meet them halfway. You don't necessarily have to celebrate what Thanksgiving stands for, but because your views are different, don't rain on someone else's parade that maybe wants to get together with you. And I'm not just using you as an example. Anybody, if you shouldn't be the guy that says, "Hey, if somebody says we're having a friendsgiving, come on over. Let's have something to eat," and you're like, "I don't believe in that holiday, and I'm going to be staying home. Thank you. As a matter of fact, I'm working overtime." I mean, come on. I get it. It's just certain things are personal beliefs that you can keep to yourself and you can ebb and flow a little bit in life to appease other people. As long as it's not hurting anybody or nobody's being hurt by the actions, to sit down and have some turkey, I don't think that's too bad. I get what you're saying. I mean, you should definitely let the younger generation understand that, what is being celebrated is not the story they told us and the true meaning behind it. I think that's really important. Then let's break bread.
Yeah, yeah, that's
You
fair.
know?
I guess, yeah. And I mean, it's just this time of year is so, I don't know, difficult for me, because I think I recognize the nature of it all, and the forced nature of it all, and how it's just perpetuating stuff that, again, just doesn't feel like was our idea in the first place. And
Yeah.
which brings us to Christmas, something that you and I talked about off air, and is interesting I like to kind of always just consider the alternative, the origins of something that then, ultimately got co-opted by commercialism and corporate interests and things like that. But it's fun to talk about the ideas around Christmas and the psychedelic influence of it. And whether it's true or not, it certainly feels like yeah, all of these things that we do probably had cooler origins than what we're giving it to. Like the idea that Santa Claus was kind of invented really like late in history. Like, Santa Claus isn't an old thing. Like, the idea of the holly jolly ho 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 guy was a kind of a new advent in terms of how long something like Christmas has been celebrated, or some variation of it. And the nature of the psychedelic origins, which I think you're familiar with, and for those who aren't, and this is kind of cliff notes of it, but all of the symbolism behind it, the pine tree, the stockings over the fireplace, all these things that may have potentially been rooted in yurts where some indigenous cultures lived, and shamans would come down through the middle of the yurt where the fire traditionally is. So that's Santa coming down the chimney and bringing maybe Amanita muscaria mushrooms potentially. And those mushrooms are red and white, and you hang them over a fire to dry. And mushrooms grow under pine trees, like the presents that we put under the thing, just all these little things where I don't know if that's just internet shit or if that's true or not, but that to me is like so much more fun to kind of think that, yeah, that's a more fun story to me.
Did they say Santa was a shaman and the reindeer would consume the mushrooms and then something with their urine? I can't remember, but it was
Well, I
tied
guess
to them.
you would drink the urine of the reindeer because if it gets processed through the reindeer, maybe it removes some of the alkaloids and you have a better trip or you have a
Right.
less toxic trip or something like that. But then also the nature of the effect of the mushrooms on the reindeer get them all prancy and jumping and so flying reindeer. It's just all these things that are like just cooler than a made up fucking Hallmark story.
Yeah, and then the tree itself, I believe, was really a tree where the mushrooms were really active to grow under, the
Yep.
type of tree, I think, that we use
Yep.
for Christmas.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
there's a lot tied to it.
they could grow overnight, and so the next morning you wake up and there's presents, quote unquote, under the tree, and yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I haven't looked into this a lot, but the newest, I shouldn't say trend, but the newest
Idea.
conspiracy, I guess, is that Santa's tied to Satan.
Okay.
And that he's pushing greed and jealousy and the emotions that are negative, materialism, this like you just talked about, this craziness to go out and shop and buy and consume, and I gotta have this, and that's not behavior that's taught in the Bible. It's you help each other out. That's greed, and all those behaviors are not good. And that's what Christmas does. It whips people into a frenzy. It takes away from the actual origins of what Christmas is supposed to be about. And, if you look at Santa, it's very closely spelled to Satan.
Ooh.
And then there's, these movies, this new Jack Black movie. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. Have you seen it? Seen the preview?
I don't think so.
He's literally Satan. And he's pretending to be Santa. It's a Christmas movie. You haven't seen this? There's freaking pentagrams and stuff in it. Dude, not good. And it's not. This is bad energy to put out there. Why would you be pushing a Christmas movie targeted to children and highlighting and glorifying Lucifer? I mean, something that symbolizes hate and destruction and all the evils in life and all the negativity and bad things. Why are we putting that on the forefront? Why aren't we, I hate to say it, but putting Jesus on a pedestal? I'd rather see that. Satan, they're glorifying him and making it into a blockbuster movie. It's a little weird.
Well,
And then
there's some idea around anytime you do something that's evil or based in something that's corrupt, that you have to do it as public as possible, that you have
right,
to put it on full display. And we are so accustomed to that. I don't think, other than people who are deeply religious or moralistic, that would, I'm sure they'll be picketing at the movies, but for the most part, everyone just is like, oh, you want to go see this new Jack Black movie and not think twice about it and potentially be, programmed or whatever, whatever happens to the open mind that goes into something like that can have an effect like that. But yeah, no, I hadn't heard about that. That's
yeah.
wild.
And then if you look at, I believe, Elf, there's a scene in that movie where all the elves are holding up placards, and I think it's spelling "Merry Christmas" or something like that. And it's like a joke. They get it all screwed up in the beginning, and if you freeze frame and pause it, guess what the word spells? Satan. I'm not making that up. That's this is like you said. This is programming. This is what's the term I'm looking for? Subliminal messages. They did it back in the day with Coke and and popcorn. Some people say it works. Some people say it doesn't. I believe it works. It's tapping into your subconscious. Your subconscious is a really powerful thing. I was just thinking about this. So just to go off on a tangent, because I don't want to forget this thought. It really has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I find it a little interesting. I was thinking about the subconscious and just the consciousness, and I had a dream the other night, and it's a terrible dream, but it was about my dog, and we were in Niagara Falls, and I had jumped into the falls, and he jumped in after me. I was able to get out, and he went over the falls and died, and the rest of the dream was terrible. I was crying and upset and everything, And the couple days prior, I was in the shower and I was just thinking to myself, I'm very fortunate to have the job that I have and how close I live and whatnot, because I'm able to care for a dog and still be able to work full time, and I don't need someone else to help me. I can come home on lunch and let him out. And I was just thinking how grateful I was because if I was in a position with a job and let's say, far away in Buffalo, I wouldn't be able to have a dog because I couldn't come home and let it out, the whole thing. So in my head, a few days prior, I was just thinking about how grateful I was, and then subconsciously this dream entered into me, because I believe that I was thinking about my dog prior, but it twisted it within the dream because dreams are weird. My point being is that your conscious thoughts can turn into subconscious thoughts and vice versa without you even knowing it. So when these things come across you and you just think it's a movie, the little things in the movie, the symbolism, the little comments, the placards that flash in front of you, you consciously may not be seeing that, but your subconscious is picking that up. Does that make sense? I know it sounds
of course.
so.
No, I mean, I think you already spoke to something that's really been prevalent throughout forever, but I think in our most modern times, the idea of subliminal messaging has been utilized in order to perpetuate further consumerism. And like you said, Coke and any advertisement you see likely has something subliminal in it,
Yes.
because to say for a company to be like, buy this thing, you go, I'm not convinced, and you put in something else that to toy at your subconscious or to toy at your emotions or hit you on a level that, like you said, is subconscious. Yes, of course, that's extremely effective, and for any company, especially to corner that, or government or any power to utilize that is extremely important, because we think we're walking around with free will and we make our decisions. Nothing affects me. I mean, I always say that, like, no, advertising doesn't affect me. Nothing gets into me, but that's not true, because I wouldn't even know. I wouldn't know, because it's your subconscious, until you have enough awareness to say, I'm going to turn off this TV or turn off this device that's going to have an effect on me. That's the only real way. And, not to say that there's not things happening outside of our screens, but that's a place where you can usually kind of gather or gain some more control over your own mind.
Yeah, and even when you say advertising doesn't affect me, going the opposite route against advertising, you're actually being affected by advertising. So saying I'm not going to buy Nike, I'm going to buy homemade shoes that I made, you're now falling into the trap of advertising because
Yeah.
you're
Yes,
being
I'm resisting it. Yeah.
affected by Nike, and I'm using them as just an example.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird like that. Do you know what major companies that I won't mention, but the biggest companies in the world spend millions and millions of dollars on per year? Psychologists.
Yeah.
Why? So they can get into the mind of the consumer. The mind is being imprisoned by all sorts of things in the world. And when we can break free of that prison, like you and I are doing, like you did early on, and hopefully some of our listeners doing, start critically thinking about things from a brand new perspective, just like going back to Thanksgiving. You gotta get rid of that complete story and start from the beginning. I know you were told that through grade school, and I know everybody believed it and we celebrated it, but you gotta just clear the table, get rid of that, and start a new train of thought and thinking. And doing that's going to bring us to a better place and free our minds. As corny as that sounds, we gotta free our minds. It's starting to happen. The truth movement is moving. It's moving fast, and I
Yeah,
think
but what
more
is
and
the
more
truth? What's the truth?
in regard to what.
I don't know. I mean, like I hear that. I hear the truth movement, and I see the parties that are involved in that, and that they're going to be the ones who are revealing the truth. And I guess I'm curious what the truth
Okay.
really is. So I guess it's just counter to whatever's being told. Is just like, that's actually not true.
Yeah, I guess there's a little more nuance to it. I mean, small example, I read, Elon Musk is involved in the new administration, and he had pointed out on X, which is brilliant because, me being familiar with what he was talking about firsthand, I know he's not lying at all, is the frivolous spending of the government. He pointed out that there's something like 700 or more government buildings that pay for round the clock heat and air conditioning and are unmanned. There's not a
Mm.
single person in it. And there's, I don't know, a ridiculous sum of money each year goes to cooling and heating these places without anybody in them. Why are we doing this? And
Yeah.
it's been going on for years. Again, that's money that can go back to us. That's a very small example. When you say truth movement, let me give you another example. How about the foods we consume? RFK's all over that. They're poisoning us. They're lying to us. The ingredients are not true. They're using word salad to convince us that organic's the way to go. That's a scam. That's the new green movement. Oh, it's organic. It's got to be safe to buy. If you really knew what was going on, you probably wouldn't buy it. So the truth movement involves unveiling the secrets behind food, if I'm going to use that as an example on its own. We've been lied to about our food, and I think part of the truth movement is starting to get us cleaner foods and better labeling and understand what we're consuming. If I want to buy Twinkies, I should have a right to do that, but they shouldn't trick me into doing it. And you get what I'm saying.
I do. Yeah. I guess I feel a little bit, as always, pessimistic that change can be instituted when there's just so much. I guess that, again, is something we always talk about, is just the reset. So if you're going to say someone like RFK is going to come in and change the whole game, well, then he needs to get rid of the entire Senate and House of Representatives, anyone who's standing out in the lobby ready to take a fucking handful of money from the Twinkie company to convince that we're not harming people, that it's not until you uncorrupt people or like get, you're who you're going to get in office that isn't corrupted by something. Like the idea like that there's anyone who isn't in someone's pocket is so hard for me to believe. And I know, again, that's pessimistic and change doesn't happen if, you believe that, but I'd be, of course, that would be incredible. It'd be utopic to live in a world where there's transparency and people aren't lied to. I think we got a bit of an uphill battle with that.
Oh, of course it's an uphill battle, but you need the right trajectory to begin with, and it's a snowball effect. You got to have a little handful of snow and roll that into a huge boulder. It's not going to happen overnight. Start with RFK. I really believe that he means well. You can go all the way back years and years ago. He's been preaching the same thing. And the guy's the epitome of health. If you saw our previous health advisor, it's night and day. I think I'd take more advice from RFK than our previous one. I'm not even going to get into that. But, he means well, and he's one guy, one puzzle to the piece. And you're right. He's got one piece of the puzzle, and he's got a lot of hurdles. But if he has open-minded supporters like you and I, hopefully you included, but definitely me, it's going to help the movement. You got to get some movement behind these people, and just like the previous administration had people going the opposite route. And I don't want to get into all that, but just on health on its own, I don't think anybody's in disagreement. I don't think you can argue someone goes, I want the shittiest Fruit Loops possible and I don't want to hear about it. I don't think anybody's in disagreement that we want healthy food. When you compare a product like Fruit Loops in the United States to across the world, we have more dyes, chemicals. We've already figured out that, listen, if you guys are listening, turn over your packages on anything you're eating and look for red dye 40, yellow 40. These dyes, they're terrible. They're cancer causers. I don't drink or eat anything with these dyes in it. I'm trying to mitigate a lot of stuff, and I haven't done the greatest job. I still succumb to a lot of sweets and things of that nature. But when it comes to these dyes, I'm definitely these Gatorades, it's terrible for you. And we're the only country that has that stuff. When you compare Fruit Loops or cereals, I'm just using it as an example, to the UK or even Canada, they look different in appearance because in America we want it to be the brightest reds and the brightest blues because that's what attracts children. Their market audience is children, but we're poisoning them, for profit. It's insane. And these people that are doing this have got to have children on their own. Why wouldn't you just want to take the profits and make a yummy, healthy product that makes us better as a species? Again,
well, then why? Like,
that's
why?
just my train of thought.
No. I think it's fair, but I think the question is always why. So is it because these companies do it because it's the cheapest way to do it, so therefore their bottom line is going to be bigger because if we use red dye instead of whatever a natural version of that is, it's cheaper. I think that is probably it. And when you're dealing with shareholders and you're dealing with corporations where the bottom line is the only thing that matters, it doesn't matter. If I have stock in Fruit Loops and you killing 40 million people a day is going to make my stock go up, then I sign up for that. So when we get out of, or when we stay in a system, like you said, that is rooted in money, nothing is going to change. And so that's why I feel also pessimistic, because it's going to say, okay, if RFK institutes no red dyes and then suddenly the bottom line it drops out for all these companies, I think that there's not a powerful enough institution in the world to like they'll make red dye 42 and
You're right.
I think another issue is we'll call them sheep, and that's it's sad to NPCs, that's nicer to recognize that there are people who never have ever thought about any of this stuff. And so
Right.
starting at a baseline zero with educating a population of people who have never considered, like they've literally never read the ingredients on something. And so where we need to do the real work, obviously, to change the system as much as possible, as unlikely as I think that is to help people understand that there will always be red dye number 40 in your packages, and there's no one that can do anything about it. Go get food that doesn't have that in that, and that's, you know, that's again easier said than done, because people are broke and people like, I
Yeah.
can only afford this dyed food. You know, I can only afford Fruit Loops, and I don't know, like that's what makes me sad about the state of it all, is that people are, they're just in tough. It's a tough system to get people to just, because you can go to the grocery store and you can find things that don't have dyes in them. That's like, that would be a scary world we live in if you go to the grocery store and it's all artificial, or you go to a farmer's market and you buy food from a farmer. There's always been that option, but that being not the easy or fast way to do something, that's where we're at. So it's just, you know, for convenience and for
Yeah.
cost, it's going to keep us down.
And again, the system is designed to do that to us. The system is designed to dumb us down and keep us as worker bees. That's the bottom line. The entire circle of life that we all live in, that we perceive reality, is all by design, and not by the creator, by the one percenters, the globalists. They design it this way. They keep us at work. They barely pay us, and you know, it's this vicious cycle. So we can't afford healthy food, so we can't stay healthy. We're eating crap food. We're using vices to relax when we're not working, you know, that are poisoning us, whether it's alcohol or cigarettes. And you know, these things are all just designed to keep us in a system. You know, and we need a giant reset, and we talked about that before, and I don't know what that's going to take, some cataclysm or some major event, or maybe AI coming into the play. I mean, that could potentially be it, but without a giant reset and us being based off of currency and materialism, we're just going to keep chasing the tail. You know, I agree with you. I guess we can only change from within. You can change your family, and I
Yeah.
could change my family, but as a large population, you're right. There's a large population out there that are just trying to get by. They don't want to be bothered. I just want to go to work and have my Budweiser, watch my football. I'm not into eating tofu. Leave me alone. I like my Doritos, you know, and it's sad, but you know, I've been victim to it. I like Doritos, but I think everything in moderation, including moderation, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think about the nature of that, the patriotism that we pledge to every day at school plays into that system around like, don't tell me what to do. And so even thinking about someone like RFK coming in and sort of spreading these hippy dippy, like tofu eating, tree hugging ideas, there'll be some resistance to that. And it's interesting to think that he's in a cabinet where it's largely those who would say, keep your hands off my fucking Doritos. Like, I'm going to eat my Doritos, and, you know, you're not going to take them away. And so there's already just that conflict of like, there's somehow patriotism is linked to making the stupidest decisions that you're allowed to, where like, I want to eat as many Doritos as I can, where if someone came in and go, we're not doing Doritos anymore because they're bad for you, there could be a revolution or a revolt in that. Then that's fucked up, that thinking, because nobody wants to be told what to do. And especially if you're telling them that what they're doing is bad, and you're kind of not shaming them, but you're putting them in a position where like they're going to be defensive of their choices, even if they're objectively really bad choices, like eating Doritos every day, is like, it's an interesting place, because then you're having like this nanny state where you're like, I can't even eat Doritos anymore. This government's telling me what to do. And it's just like, you don't know what you're doing. Like, you don't know what you're doing. Like, you shouldn't be eating these things. It's hard.
Yeah, but you know what also is coming into play that we're missing here is what we just talked about. A, the psychology, and B, the chemical dependency. Doritos are designed by scientists to hit every major taste bud, every senses going on in your body for pleasure. It's like cigarettes. You tell somebody they can't smoke anymore, good luck, you know,
Mhm.
and it's part of the addiction, that's part of it. You're going to get cranky. Are they going to die from quitting cigarettes? No. But you're going to be miserable. You're going to be cranky. You're going to be irritable. You're going to be drawn to the cigarette. It's the same thing with Doritos. It's the food version of drugs. You know, you may not know it, but you associate it with a football game. You like having
Mhm.
your little dip. And
Yep.
again, that Dorito Red 40 or whatever that powder is that they dip over a tortilla chip, is chemically engineered to satisfy, all your taste buds and everything else going on in your body so that you want another one. These guys are paid millions of dollars, and I'm sure most people already know this. They're food scientists. I mean, that's what they are. They go into a laboratory and they test these different flavors and chemicals. That's what they are. They're chemicals. They test these different chemicals, and whichever ones sell the best, that's the ones they put out. And
I mean,
without regard to your health.
Yeah, and that's like, I guess I always kind of consider the human element to it and trace it all back and say, until it is, AI doing this stuff, it is like there's a guy who goes to his job every day and he makes the most delectable shit possible, and maybe he takes pride in that, but knowing, as intelligent as he is as a scientist, knowing that he's hurting people, I just wonder what the life of that person is, how they can, and I know the answer to this, probably because they get paid a fucking shitload of money to just be like, I do what I do. And I know there was a very brief not even movement, but awareness. And it's one of those things like, we're talking about how Doritos are unhealthy and no one's going, what? Like, everybody knows all this already. It's the same thing with social media, where we all knew it. Like, it came in so sneakily and came in so it just got into our lives without us, any of us questioning it until people started questioning it. And there was a documentary a couple of years ago called The Social Dilemma. And I saw it, it's the same thing. It would be like a documentary that says Doritos are bad. It's a documentary saying social media is bad, but getting to hear it from a perspective of oh, fuck, right. I didn't consider the fact that, like you said, there are psychologists and sociologists who are hired in order to make this the most addictive thing possible. And there are people being interviewed in that documentary who used to work for these companies who did, when they formerly worked for these companies, that said, I don't let my kids do this shit. And so I'm complicit in it because it's my job and I get paid, but I'm not poisoning my family with it. I will poison everybody else's family. And so that's just an interesting perspective of we do shit because, I don't know, because we need to.
Motivated by greed and money.
Yeah.
I.e. Bill Gates, i.e. Dr. Fauci. Both should be charged with crimes against humanity. I mean, what they do is sickening. You want to talk about pure evil? Those two guys are pure evil. And they're all about profit. They can give two shits about the human population or human beings. We're just cattle to them. We're nobody. And they both proved it. You got Bill Gates overseas in third world countries injecting these poor children with God knows what because he can't get the permission to do it within the United States. I mean, he's testing out his vaccines on, an impoverished population that don't know any better. And he's getting the approval to do it, and what the hell does he know about vaccines? He's a computer guy because it's profitable. And then he's involved with this peel stuff that they're putting all over our veggies and our fruits. Have you heard about this peel stuff? It's a coating. It's a wax coating, but it's made of chemicals. It's supposed to preserve our fruits and make them brighter. It's the toxin. And that was his company. You get into Fauci, the guy sat up there and lied to us for how many years or how many months to our faces and made us feel like we were, idiots or we were bad people for not telling on our neighbors, for not going to get some experimental clot shot. And now the guy, you don't see him anywhere. Where is the guy? They just tweeted today, bringing back RFK again. He just wrote, I'd love to find out where Dr. Fauci is to have a little talk with him. And Elon Musk wrote, yes. So when you talk about truthers, listen, I think there's some guys out there that are leading the pack, and I think we're in a good place. I mean, Alex Jones is back on board speaking the truth. People are accepting him. You got, Tucker Carlson, and you can say what you want about these people. Some believe that they're plants. There's a lot of people that believe they're controlled opposition, and I don't know. I just see it from face value, and what I see so far is pretty damn good. They're calling Fauci out, going back to him. Where has he been?
Yeah. I mean,
he was the god.
I know. I remember some really fucking cheesy, cringy things that they did around Fauci to kind of glorify him. And make
Fauci ouchie.
I think that was the other side was using that, the Fauci ouchie, or did that get accepted on the on the good side? Yeah, just the I think, it's funny you talk about RFK and all these, Elon and all these people, and I don't engage in a lot of just stuff on the internet, but obviously my algorithm is tuned to what it thinks I want to hear, and I only hear bad shit about those people. I only hear critiques and thinking that there's there is their own vested interest. And so it's, I like to stay right in the middle because I like to believe that everyone's got some shit that they're hiding from people. And I don't believe that anyone is benevolent. And I think that someone like Elon, if that dude does not have some vested interest in making himself more powerful and more money, then he's clearly got directives that are going to be making his life a whole hell of a lot easier. And it's nice to say, yeah, I do believe that it would be, I do hear about the kind of the bloated bureaucratic nature of the government and axing all these like programs that are just useless and heating and cooling buildings. Like, yeah, that's amazing. And while he's doing that, he's also demolishing regulations that he can then be like, I'll put as many fucking rockets in the air as I want. He's got power to do that. And so it's not to say that he's not potentially doing something that is going to benefit, but also he's benefiting himself. And I think that that's a middle place to stay that I feel a lot more comfortable with.
Oh, that's 100%. I agree with you. I'm not like sold that Elon's our savior. I think he's got a lot of skeletons in the closet. I mean, just look at his origin story. It's kind of evil. His father owned some sort of, slave-run gem mine or something over in South Africa, and he came from money. And, listen, he's into the space industry, quote unquote space. You know how I feel about that. So, I just don't think Elon's our savior. The things I've seen that he's been doing thus far for people, they seem common sense. Like I guess I should say, he has the platform to call these things out. And when he does, it makes me feel good. Because when we say things like that, it doesn't mean anything. But, he's got the status, the money, and the juice that when he says it and it supports something that I believe in, I want to get behind it. Do I trust him? Trust him?
Well,
no.
Yeah, I think the thing that seems to excite you is just anyone speaking up against what we've just kind of all been going along with for a really long time. So anyone that comes in and says, hold on, that's bullshit, or I think it should be, just doing opposite of what it is, and whether the opposite is right is yet to be seen. And if there is like huge amounts of disruption in the system that's been established for a really long time, and it turns out that that's like, oh, we needed those buildings that were being heated and cooled for whatever reason, we'll have to find that out. And I think that's what seems like is going to happen with this administration, is just like a crazy overcorrectness of all the things that have been done for a really long time. And let's see what happens. Like, nobody knows whether that is going to be a good thing or a bad thing. And it's not ever going to be a good thing or bad thing for anybody. It's going to be a good thing for maybe one person and a bad thing. That's the thing about politics, is like, you don't fix it for everyone. You fix it for the people who wanted it the other way. And that's why it's so crazy with the right and the left, where like you get 4 years of like, I love it. I love this 4 years. And then the next 4 years, like, I hate this 4 years. Like, what are we doing here?
But don't you think some things are just common sense based? When you say, one side may feel like, we're talking, I mean, I'm using the issue of food. Who is disputing food?
Yeah, no, I agree.
I mean, and the other side supported those companies. I'm just saying, and those lobbyists and those people, we're shutting them down now. I mean, that's not a good thing. I mean, we need to be on the middle on that. I mean, I think that's pretty clear that's not good.
No, well, yeah, go ahead.
No, even using the building example that you just said, well, we got to find out. What do we got to find out? You got 700 empty buildings that we're heating and cooling. Shut them down. I mean, I don't understand what we need to figure out here. Let's see if, someone's sleeping up there. I mean, it's pretty clear. This is what I'm saying. Like,
my air conditioning. Yeah.
Some issues are more nuanced. And yes, they're gonna be heavily opinionated, and there may not be a right or wrong, and that's gonna cause conflict. Other issues are just common sense. I mean, both sides. If you're disagreeing with food, you have an agenda, or you're being bought off or paid. Because I don't know anybody in their right mind that would say, well, I disagree. I think Fruit Loops may be a little better than broccoli. No one's saying. I mean, maybe there's a few people going, Fruit Loops is bussin'.
Definitely more than a few are saying
broccoli's bussin'. That's what we should be saying.
Broccoli's bussin'. Well, I think that, I don't know, I think it's interesting to consider. I didn't think we'd be talking about RFK, but it's interesting to consider.
God bless RFK.
His lineage of the history of his family, who have been, kind of silenced for the opposition that they bring to the table. And I'm curious because, again, considering that he, who, if we're taking him at his word, has the health of America at heart, and he means that, and he believes that, and he's going to do everything he can. The party that he's in has a long history of not giving a fuck about people's health, and have lobbied for and have perpetuated companies that sell red dye number 40. And so for him to be in an administration, it kind of seems like he's setting himself up for, you know what I'm hinting at.
Yeah, I do, but I believe this administration is being protected by God. I mean, I listen, this is the last ditch effort. This is it. If you want to talk about a republic, if it doesn't work out this 4 years, I don't know what's going to happen. AI better come into the picture. I really think this is the last ditch effort. I mean, I think we're getting God and Christianity or whatever more religious freedom back into the country before that was starting to phase itself out. Why? Because of the demons that are in control. They want us to be spiritually, I don't want to use the word retarded, but I'm going to say spiritually retarded.
When did you get so religious?
Flat Earth, baby.
Yeah.
Listen, there's got to be a creator out there. And as I get older and you get into Flat Earth, it opens up your mind to God, and you just realize this all boils down to being a spiritual battle. There's evil people out there, and I really believe that there's a demonic presence, and it may walk our earths. Maybe it's aliens. But there's something more than, we have a soul, maybe call that consciousness. There's something more there. And I truly believe, and I've tried over the years myself, and I could see it firsthand, that when I've changed my thought patterns and I'm more positive, and I'm not perfect, but when I'm more positive and I'm more helpful, I'm always trying to help people. On a real quick tangent, I've had some friends that are a little younger than me, and I have a little bit more experience with like fixing things. That, like I'm handy, and I'll have someone, can you give me a hand fixing my bathroom? I got an issue, and I'll come over there and I'll be done. Good friend of mine. Well, how much do I owe you? What do you mean how much? Well, I gotta pay it. Dude, we're friends. Like, what happened to helping your neighbor? Like, you don't owe me anything. You know what you owe me? Pick up your phone when I need you.
Yeah.
That's it. But so many people feel that they owe somebody something. The whole act of kindness thing has disappeared. Anyways, going back to what I was saying, when I start doing acts of kindness just based on the pure act itself and not for a monetary reason, that will come back to you through the ether, through the vibrations. When you want to get into, crazy stuff like string theory, and you get into quantum physics, all that boils down to vibrations, and that's what string theory is vibrations and frequencies, and you're putting that out, you're going to get it back. You could say that's religious in its own, that's spiritual in its own. Is it all connected? The ancients certainly thought so. There's got to be something out there. There's got to be a creator. I don't believe in evolution. I don't believe we came from pond scum, single-celled organism to where we are right now talking how we are. Come on. I don't care how many years it took. And how do they even know how many years it took? How do they know that the Earth is 4 billion years old or the universe is 4 billion? Where'd they get that number from? Who told them that? I'm being serious. They're just making shit up. 4 billion years? Yeah, we'll go with that. No one's going to question that one. Dude, we don't know. The Earth could be 10,000 years. I tend to believe more now of the Bible than I do of scientific papers. I know that sounds ridiculous to a lot of people out there, and they probably think I'm crazy, but science changes every day, and it's been wrong over and over and over throughout history, and it's hurt us.
That's the nature of science. But
it can't be a science. I understand that. Then you have to understand that thought pattern and that train of thought and go with that. You can't be stuck in your ways. When you get into certain scientific studies, people are so invested in it and there's so much money behind it, it deters them from thinking outside the box, because maybe a guy spent the last 10 years of his life on one topic, maybe he does have an epiphany and go, I've been wrong, but Jesus, I spent a decade on it. I have all this funding coming in. I can't admit now that dinosaurs don't exist. I can't admit now that we're not going to space.
Let's go back. Just go back. Hold on. Go back to
I'm fired up right now.
Good.
You know what? I'm getting too hot.
Me too, man. That's better. When you use words like demonic presence, I get a little bit, Yeah, I feel like, oh, I don't, that doesn't resonate. I think that it's simpler and not saying that there's a demonic presence in as much as there's an ego inside of us, which we all have and we all do our best to have a good relationship with. And some have just let that run rampant. And so I think that less about like whether it's aliens or it's demons or anything like that. It's just humans. It's humans doing what humans do. And to your point, you just made a second ago, pride, and if you want to tie it into the Bible with sins and things like that, pride being one of those, is that you're so prideful and you're so unstable and insecure that you aren't willing to admit that you made a mistake. And because of that, you're going to perpetuate some bullshit that's going to, just further things like that. I think it's simpler to just be like, we are a fallible species and we came out that way and we'll probably go out that way. And so to fight these forces is fighting just humans. It's humanity and whatever. We're just talking semantics now. It doesn't matter. You can still say demons and say that you're a demonic person, but it's just, I think it's ego is more accurate. I guess it just feels better for me, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess you can say that, but look at the worst human beings on earth, murderers, rapists, all these, just terrible things that they're capable of doing. You don't think they're influenced by something, or do you think it's just brain chemistry, or do you just think do you think it's nature or nurture? Do you think that can be in a good family, a potential like a Jeffrey Dahmer? I mean, I don't know his background and how he grew up. I'm sure some of these serial killers grew up in great households. I mean, I don't know. Is that an effect? Is it the environment, the effect? Where is that coming from? Where is that?
I think
I
yes to
can't
all
see
the
it
things you said.
myself.
I think yes to all the things you said. I think it's nature and nurture. I think it is purely biochemical imbalances. I mean, things like depression or these afflictions that we often have aren't necessarily, they're not always rooted in, I'm depressed because I live in a shitty house. You're depressed because you have an imbalance. Like, we have chemical imbalances. Now you want to trace where those chemicals imbalance come. Maybe it's fucking Fruit Loops, like all these, and it's like, that's nature versus the nurture part of it. It's just like, I live in an environment. Of course I'm fucking depressed. I'm taking, I'm eating garbage every single day. And so I think we are the products of our environment. And I think that you probably could trace evil to learning that or having it, I guess, again, it's like to think that there are unseen forces that, like, there's some like you devil who's like, yeah, I'm going to make this person a serial killer. And like that, I don't know. That doesn't jive with me.
No, I don't agree with that either. And I can't describe it. It's one of those things. I just think it's a presence. I mean, what do you think about? What do you think about so-called? Well, first of all, before I go into that, did you hear the Pope, the most recent Pope, has said officially that hell doesn't exist? First time ever in history. Did you hear about that?
You didn't.
Yeah, from the Vatican. All the popes prior had said there's a heaven and hell, basically, in their teachings. This Pope has come forward and literally said hell is a manifestation of your thoughts. That's not hell doesn't exist.
I like
Very
that.
interesting. Very interesting. Never ever in a time of history. But what do you think about miracles? I mean, what about people that are, in all accounts, should be dead, but for some reason aren't because they maybe prayed, or they were religious, and maybe they weren't. Maybe God just wanted to save them, if you believe in that. But there are some instances that are unexplainable. And just a quick example of one. I don't know if you heard the story about the woman from England that was on a flight flying over the Amazon. It was like, I don't know how many people were in it, over 100, I believe. The flight, it was a commercial flight, crashed in the Amazon. She was with her boyfriend. Everybody dead. She lives. From like 30,000 feet, this plane landed. I mean, this wasn't some Cessna that was just just took off. This thing was flying like a normal commercial plane. Boom, falls, blows up, breaks in half. She's in the jungle, unfound for a couple of days. It's raining. She's got a broken pelvis, a hip, all these injuries, and lives. How do you live through a plane crash? What do you chalk that up to? Sure coincidence?
Statistics.
I mean, what's coincidence?
1 out of 100 people survive a plane crash. Like
No way, not a play. They even have the top of the line people looking at this because they're dumbfounded. They don't understand. I mean, it's so miraculous that people are like picking apart her seat. Where did she sit? what was she doing prior? They asked her, did you take a sip of water? I mean, it's getting, they want to break down every nuanced detail leading up to it because it's unexplainable. So how do you explain? That's a small example. I can give you a ton of them in that instance where people, for some reason.
I don't explain it by saying that God was like, those 99 people, we don't need them.
You're right. You're good point. Good
There's no
point.
force that's up there moving chess pieces around and deciding whether people die or people live. I think that there can be unexplainable things, like my boy Neil deGrasse Tyson says. The universe is under no obligation to make sense to you.
Don't get me started on that guy. I think he's a demon.
He's not a demon.
He's probably a reptilian.
He's a dork.
He's a reptilian. He's out there spreading misinformation and talking down on people and making fun of them, and he's just a bad guy all around. You ever see some of his interviews?
Yeah, wouldn't you consider that he's captured? Like he's entirely captured? Is that your impression of him? Or you just? I think talk about pride and being this, like, I am the spokesperson for science, and he got some weird level of popularity, and we were glorifying nerds and dorks at that time, and he caught the wave, and now he's a pundit. He gets to go in and argue. He's never going to go on a show and say, oh, you're right, that is an interesting point, I didn't consider that, because he has to stay steadfast and fixed to his prideful beliefs. He's a human.
That's true.
He's not a reptile.
Just to be fair, you can't prove or disprove that, and neither can I.
That's true.
But,
Yeah. I just believe that humans are so capable of shitty behavior based on all the things we listed: nature, nurture, biochemical things. So, it's just we're shitty. We're shitty.
Okay.
People.
Do you think human beings are born inherently good? Like all human beings from the get-go, do you think at the start we all are just good, or we're born with sin? We're born with sin.
Good's subjective. You can define good, and I can define good. Our goods are different. Some people, there are cultures who believe that it's good to mutilate someone's genitalia. That's
true.
Good. Like,
that's
so
true. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. But I do believe that people come out from source, and when their soul is put into the body, and then the body has the experience and gets traumatized or doesn't, and just has an experience. I don't know. I'm not religious to the point where I'm believing the exact story, but I do believe that there's got to be some sort of creator. It could be anything. Maybe, God, quote unquote God, doesn't have to be what everybody typically thinks he is. It could be, if we live in a simulation, the creator of the simulation could be our God. You get what I'm saying? Like, it depends on where we're going and what we're doing. But I do believe the reality we live in, whether it's real or fake, was created. I don't think it was happenstance from a big bang, that's some made up number, and then, like I said, we're crawling out of some lake as a fish, and then all of a sudden we're a monkey, and then now we're here as we are now. To me, that's ridiculous. I mean, come on. Well, but it took millions of years, and it's evolution. Get out of here. Show me the fossil records in between the pond scum and the human being. Well, we have apes. I mean, come on. Show me the fish. Show me the fish man. Why are we not continuing evolving? There's a question. Are we evolving now into the next thing, or do we stop at human beings? We are evolving into the next thing.
What is the next thing?
Well, it's
we're getting dumber.
Yeah, we're getting dumber, but we've also created an intelligence that supersedes us and is outside of us, and will soon be integrated, if not already becoming so much so. And that's an interesting perspective on evolution.
That's not evolving.
That's shedding fingers, or we're like our because the idea, I think, of evolution is that you evolve to a state where you are adapted to your environment. I'm adapted to this environment. I can touch this button. I have a thumb. I have arms and legs and can do things. Yeah, that's the environment. I'm not like, I can't reach that thing. I invented a ladder. I'm using my brain. Like, I think that we are kind of settled into this, and I think the next evolution is more of a mental one, and that's somebody invented AI. Like, somebody thought of that.
Yeah, but that's not human beings evolving. That's us creating the next species that's going to kill us off. I mean,
That's
what, you think they're going to bring us along? No, we're weak. We're
yeah, but so
inferior. We're
what is
stupid. They're
the
going to go,
they
thanks a
in
lot
that?
for creating us. Have a good one.
Yeah,
I mean, we're
I'm
not evolving. We're stopping our evolution. I'm saying evolving from a biological standpoint. If we came from a single-celled organism to a fish, am I getting this right? Right? That's what the mainstream
I don't know
story
the
is.
story. Sure,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
a
fish, yeah.
fish, and then into some sort of primate, and there's some stuff in between there. Nobody knows what that is, and then here we are. You know, I don't know. I disagree with that. You know. I mean, Darwin himself, you can look and it's called the Darwin's dilemma. He couldn't
Mhm.
explain the eyeball. He
Yeah,
said, everything else, I can explain. He, wrote it out in his writings, but the eyeball was something he couldn't. That was Darwin's dilemma. He didn't understand how we could perceive what we perceive through the human eye or any eye for that matter.
yeah.
And then look at some creatures that they can't trace. Where did the octopus come from?
Hmm.
They don't have a sea slug, they say. Come on, they're making stuff up, dude.
Yeah,
How are they
making stuff
finding
up.
this
They're
stuff
trying to
out?
find answers. They're trying to
Yeah,
find
but
answers and they're making mistakes.
right. You're right. They're trying to find answers, and I'm okay with that. But then say that. Don't make it definitive and put it in textbooks and tell them that this is the answer. Only for 10 years later, go, sorry, we made a mistake. This is really how it went. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's no. You get what I'm saying?
I do. Yeah. Well, I mean, as we do this show and as I bend a little bit in your
Yeah.
direction in order to just have a conversation and not just have an argument, it is interesting to think of a theory where there is the evolution theory that it was a long span of time that happened and took a really long time through trial and error, through just evolution, what it does, and then it's wild to think that largely that's one theory, and then the other one is no, it was something just kind of snapped their fingers and it was all here. It definitely is like if we end up in a place where we just evolved into this, it kind of takes the magic out of like, all right, well then what is our purpose, or what is like why did it get all the way, why did it happen, and now I'm suddenly here and I got to pay taxes, and it's all like very kind of confusing, and it's like I just get what are you laughing at?
No, because you're right. But those are the systems that we engineered. You don't
Yes,
have.
well
You don't
no,
have.
no, well you do have to pay taxes.
You really don't when you get to the core of it. You get what I'm saying? Like you don't.
You got a secret that I
But there's
don't?
consequence. No, but there's
Yeah.
consequence.
Yes.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Like you can Wesley Snipes it. You're
Yeah.
going to do 5 years, or
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? It shouldn't be that way. That's ridiculous that they put someone in a cage over money. But what I'm getting at is, at the end of the day, you really don't have to pay taxes. But
No, you're
you're
right. Well,
going.
the point I was trying to make was, so with that theory, and it just, we kind of like ended up here over a long period of time, and now here we are, and good luck. Versus the theory that we were put here potentially by a benevolent source who loved us and cared about us and put us here, and then gives us some sort of purpose, list of rules, commandments, and then to abide by, to love thy neighbor, to not covet thy neighbor's wife or thy neighbor's servant, to do all these things. That one does have more of a richness to it and have more of a like a guidance and a more of a purpose to it. And so I get why people resonate and fight for that idea of just like, no, there's no way that this shit all just happened accidentally. It's got to be something that more miraculous than that. And so I take it, I used to just poo-poo it entirely, but I get it to a certain degree of like, yeah, it feels nicer to think that this shit is magic and it was done beyond our comprehension and it's awesome. And yeah, it's still hard, but maybe there's more purpose to it.
Was that what you're missing? The purpose to life? Or I'm not really
Well,
following. Like,
I don't know, I think to your point earlier about acts of service where you help people and then that comes back to you, and operating in a more of a altruistic lifestyle where we're all just helping each other out, and that brings you joy, and you're not going to help your friend because you're like, this is going to make me happy. You do it and then you're like, oh, that was nice, and he's better off, and now he'll help me, and like just these kind of things that you do without really an intention to it, I think is just a nicer thing. And I think that when you get to the physics level of saying like, yes, positivity begets positivity, like the vibration of positivity just goes on forever. That's awesome. And I don't think science can explain that as much as they would try with something like string theory. But I guess that does stay more in line with kind of more the biblical stuff of just like, yeah, remember God said that? He told you to be nice to your neighbor. And look, he was right. So I don't know. It's whatever guidebook you use, I guess, basically.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to common sense. I shouldn't say this because you made a good point earlier. I was going to say, I think most people would say killing another human's bad, but then you made a good point that there are some people that might think that's not true. Killing certain human beings is good. So how do we define which ones we kill and which we don't? See, that's a tough one, because there are some human beings out there that have done terrible things. Should they exist anymore, or is it up to us to make that decision?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Just to go off a little tangent though about intention and vibrations and that nature, and a little experiment they had conducted in Japan that kind of supports that idea. I thought was really interesting. Is they had this guy, and I can't remember. He had 2 jars. I know this. He had 2 jars, and he had something in it that was organic, and I can't remember if it was a piece of fruit, a vegetable. It was some sort of food product. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but he did this with,
shit to it.
you know about this.
Yeah.
You know about this one? Where
Yeah,
he would spew hate and negative words to one of the jars daily in a separate room that was isolated. You're a piece of shit. I hate you. I can't stand you. You're nothing, blah, blah, blah. And the other one, I love you. You're great. You're going to do so good. The words manifested a biological effect. One rotted way faster than the other. And you could say, oh, well, that one just happened to rot. This experiment was conducted in the scientific method and was done multiple times. And again, you're going to have to look into it. I don't know the details, but I remember it was a very famous experiment, very interesting to see that words have a resonance to them. They have the ability to affect the material world. And I do believe that, because your words are really powerful, so, but again, throwing positivity into the ether and getting it back, but not doing it for that. You had mentioned, helping your friends, so hopefully you get something back. I don't do that in hopes that I'm going to get something positive. I just do it because I personally enjoy seeing other people being helped, because I know how it felt when I was in those situations, when I was in a jam. I myself don't like asking for help, but I enjoy giving it. I know it's there for me, but I know the feeling of feeling helpless sometimes. So it's good to provide that, to people, out of the kindness of your heart.
Yeah, and I think what comes back to a lot of all these discussions is that we're never going to fix everybody. So there's always going to be the person who does the thing because they want a pat on the back or they want acknowledgement, and there'll always be the person who does it selflessly and it's just like, oh, don't worry about it. I don't mind helping. And I don't think that we're ever going to change everyone. And so it just comes back to a personal choice. Like, I actually just I like helping people, and don't worry about giving me any money. That's me. I'm not going to be like, why don't you do that? Because then it's suddenly it's not the same anymore. It's only about your own universe that you cultivate and see through your eyes. And if you, Ryan, see positive benefit from helping people, then you're going to keep doing that. And
Don't you think that's infectious though? Like, if it rubs off on other people, especially the people you surround yourself or your crew. Like, you got a group of guys, 5 guys. Just give me an example. You're at a bar, and one of your guys is acting up. You put him in check. Hey, man, don't be a shithead. And then maybe he realizes, and then he does the same thing, and it just becomes this snowball effect where people are checking each other within small communities. And as corny as it sounds, it starts with a small group of people. And it can lead to bigger things.
Yeah, and I think that works not only on a small level, but largely on a small level, because when you start to go into the country and we talk about this inherent left and right, and so until those just get blended, that's we're a long way away. And anyway, I think that it always a lot of this stuff is just starts at individual. It can have communal and smaller scale, whether it's politics or individuality, and that's all that. Now, before we run out of time, what we talking about, and it's a hard right turn, but I think it stays in the thing, is dinosaurs.
Yeah, but before we get in, I got one more thing to add to everything we talked about, because I'm going to help the listeners at home. I just want to share this. There's been a lot of studies and I went down a rabbit hole on this one about bells and the vibrations that they give off. If you notice, bells are nowhere anymore. What had bells in the past? Churches, right?
Hmm.
What are bells used for? Bells are used for healing purposes. And when you ring a bell, the vibrations that come off of a bell resonate with the human being and can heal things. And we know that now with certain cancers using vibrational tools and things of that nature externally from the body, that we can actually use sound to kill cancer cells and save the surrounding cells. What I'm getting at is get a bell. No, in all seriousness, when you start looking into bells, when you start looking into bells, it's mysterious that they've disappeared out of our cultures.
You're right. You're right.
And
Did they take them
the
out of churches? That's
oh yeah, you don't see bell, the Liberty Bell. There were bells at the center of all towns at one time. Did you know that? At certain times they would ring them. I mean, even in our growing up, remember we'd always hear the what was it, the fire hall bell at like 6 p.m. And it's back in the cathedral in earlier times, they knew that these bells were for healing purposes. And if you look into the mud floods in Tartaria and Old World, you'll see that a lot of these bells were mysteriously rounded up from all these areas and buried basically. And today they do a lot of archaeological digs that have bells there, and it's weird that we're burying them. I know it sounds weird, but
no, it doesn't
even
at all.
ancient Eastern cultures, what do they use? The gong,
Hmm.
right? When Buddhists do their breathing exercise, it's a certain tone they're using,
Hmm.
reminiscent of a bell.
Yep.
So, anyways, get yourself some bells. All right, what were you saying? Dinosaurs, fake as hell.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know how much you can talk about it other than just the fact that it's another one of those fabricated storylines
Oh,
for
it definitely
purposes.
is.
Yeah.
It definitely is, and it falls into evolution and hiding of God again. Because when you bring up dinosaurs, what did God make a mistake and wipe them all out? Did He start with the dinosaurs? I mean, God's supposed to be perfect. The Creator's supposed to be perfect, or is this a simulation again where they went the dinosaur? Well, those are not fun anymore. Big meteor, goodbye. Let's start all over again. So that's a conundrum in itself. Why would there be this giant walking lizards, and then one day there are none? If you believe in a creator and God, there had to be a reason behind that.
Yeah, but don't those come into conflict with each other? Isn't it
Why is
almost
that?
just like mutually inclusive to say if you believe in God, you don't believe in dinosaurs?
That's correct.
Yeah, so you're already just like there because if you explain it from a scientific point of view, there is no plan. There's no game plan of like we're going to do dinosaurs for a bit, kill the dinosaurs, we bring humans in. It's
Right.
that's yeah, that's why that one works for me. Is
What's that?
I believe in evolution, and I believe that we started from nothing and evolved from
Dinosaurs?
no, not that that we evolved from dinosaurs, but a creature that was living around that time.
Wait a minute, I'm lost. You believe that we were evolved from a creature that was living in prehistoric times?
I don't want to sign off on it entirely, but we are in that timeline. Yeah.
Oh my God, dude. Bro.
Yeah, but the other
We're
option is
talking
that we would
about
just
grade
God just
school.
went through and said Adam and Eve.
No, I don't think they even existed. That's what I'm getting at. Dinosaurs are made up in our imaginations for children, like space. Those are the two things they start with, dinosaurs and children. Again, what is the reason for the lie? Money. Look into the history. Google Bone Wars. Do you know that dinosaur discovery started from a single tooth and they reconstructed? There's never been a full skeleton ever discovered. Fossils don't even exist. They're manufactured over in China. There was the whole Bone Wars. Go to a modern day anywhere museum and look at any of these dinosaur exhibits. They're
I
all put
did, and
together with plaster.
we went to the Natural History Museum and we walked in, and Kirby goes, "Your brother completely ruined this place for me."
Dude, listen, again, it boils down to common sense. Let's think about a couple things here, okay? Am I using this word correctly? Anatomy. I'm sorry. The anatomy of a T-Rex is ridiculous. Look at the size of the skull, the head, the amount of weight that's on the bone structure of a creature of that size, the little tiny hands, the small tail. The counterbalance is off on him to begin with, okay? The sheer size of some of these dinosaurs would the amount of stress, and I'm not an expert, but experts in the outside fields have talked about this, that would be on the bone structures would be immense at the sheer size that they're saying that they wouldn't even be able to walk upright. That they wouldn't even be able to move. They'd be moving so slow that they wouldn't even be able to do anything. Then you get into this, I mean, come on, a brontosaurus, how does it even sleep? The neck's as long as 3 city blocks. Its blood pressure's got to be through the roof. Listen, the giraffe is the highest, or is the animal in the current animal kingdom with the highest blood pressure. They say if a giraffe, anything beyond a giraffe, it wouldn't be able to survive the blood pressure. Do you know how much circulation would have to get on a neck 3 square blocks away?
Yeah.
Take a stegosaurus. How do they mate? Their whole body's covered in. Dude, think about it. Common sense. Tell me, how does a stegosaurus mate?
No,
Tell me.
I've never thought of this shit.
Uh-huh.
Need a second here. God.
Dude, think about it on a common sense level. It's all ridiculous. Then they say, oh, they had lizard skin, and now it's feathers. They're more like chickens. They fly. They're making shit up. I mean, come on. It's kind of funny. Did you ever find a dinosaur bone? I never found one. Boy, they dig foundations for houses every day all along the United States, yet nobody's finding them. But the archaeologists find them. The people that are in the industry find them. And then it's hands off. We can't show you them. They're locked in the vault in the museums. We use replicas because we don't want human beings to touch these fragile fossils. The whole thing is lunacy. They'll take a bone that's a mysterious bone the size of this, and maybe the size of your finger, and they construct an entire dinosaur based on it. They give it a personality, they give it traits, they know its breeding habits, its eating habits. Where are they getting all this from? It's all made up. I mean, again, when you look at it, from a common sense level, and you just break it down and you start thinking about these things, it's like some of it doesn't add up. I mean, the Native Americans never talked about dinosaurs. But guess what they did talk about? Bigfoot and Yeti. Those are in their oral histories and their written histories. The wild man. And that's real talk. They don't talk about dinosaurs. They were here way before us, going back to Thanksgiving. They were all over the plains of the United States. And don't say they didn't dig. They definitely dug. Mm-hmm. And in some of these levels that these archaeologists are finding, these dinosaurs are just basic. They're not buried 300 feet underground. They're right there at the surface, apparently. And then they section that off, and if you and I were to ask to inspect some dinosaur bones, we're not allowed to. Why not? If they're everywhere, why can't we look at them? Why can't third party? We have so many people that are educated now, but we're so stuck on this thing. If you're not an archaeologist, we can't have you handle those. Mm-hmm. Why not? There's some people that are smarter in the field that are independent, and they study on their own. They use the computer. They use YouTube. They're probably have a better understanding of these things than anyone else, yet they're not allowed to examine the bones because they know the secret will come out. It's all money-based.
Money in archaeology?
$1 billion industry. Do you know what a T-Rex skull sold for last year? $12.5 million. Do you know that Nicolas Cage was bamboozled into one? What?
No, I knew that Nicolas Cage had bought it.
Exactly, and he realized it was fake. The whole thing's fake. I'm sorry, but it's chicken bones and regular bones that are piecemealed together in these factories in China, and they're plasterized and they're brought over. I mean, again, when you just look at it from a base level, the word dinosaur didn't even start till the late 1800s. There was nothing before that. Look into the bone wars. It was 2 archaeologists on the East Coast. One guy found some small little tooth. Another guy found a bone fragment. They received so much money and attention from both of their discoveries that they started perpetuating their own lies, and they found more bones. And now we have a full skeleton. Well, I got a head. Well, I got a tail. And it became this competition, and it just became money driven. And then they get so deep in the lie, they can't get themselves out. So we're just going to ride this thing till the wheel falls off. No one's going to question it. Here's a dinosaur. Here's a museum. We're going to make a movie. Jurassic Park, again, propaganda, sold the whole story to millions of people. They put a voice to a dinosaur. How do they know what they sounded like? Come on. That's impossible. But yet people will, if you ask the average person on the street, well, tell me about a dinosaur. They're going to describe the classic Jurassic Park dinosaur. It doesn't make sense to me. And then they talk about this meteor strike that wiped them out. You mean to tell me it killed everything in the ocean? The oceans are miles deep. Why don't we have dinosaurs swimming in the oceans today? There was prehistoric sharks and prehistoric whatever sauruses that are, in gargantuan sizes that they describe. These things are megalithic, and yet they're nowhere to be found. So that meteor that hit the Yucatan Peninsula 65 million years ago, where they got that number from, I probably just made that up, hits the Yucatan Peninsula on the other side of the Earth, the round Earth, be that, okay, and 75% or 70% of the Earth is covered by oceans that are miles deep. That meteor hits over there. I understand the theory that it blocked out the sun and it killed the vegetation. Ocean creatures don't need vegetation. They don't need sun. The sun stops at a certain depth in the ocean. They're perfectly fine. Yet we see no dinosaurs in the ocean. How's that possible? And I know you get really upset with these things, and you're like, I don't freaking know. But these are these are questions that are common sense questions that you can just do thought experiments on your own at home and start breaking down these things and ask them. And when you ask the people that have the credentials and the diplomas and all that, they don't want to talk about this stuff. Oh, it's come on, I can't be bothered. Who are you? I'm not going to engage with you. Why not? These are, I think, in my opinion, good questions to be asking. I'd like to have some answers, and yet there are none. It's just, because no one really cares at the end of the day about dinosaurs. It's just, a money-making business. I think it's interesting that it's another lie that people just go along with. I personally don't believe these things existed. I mean, they should be everywhere. If what they tell us is the truth, that the CO2 levels were different on the earth at that time and the vegetation was huge and that's what supported them, and if these things were that size, I mean, T-Rex has got to have a diet that's the calorie that thing had to consume on a daily basis has got to be ginormous. I mean, look at a whale, how much it has to consume on a daily basis just to live. There's got to be millions and millions of creatures to allow these T-Rexes to live. Fossils should be in your backyard. You should just go dig a garden and find a fossil. Yet they're not. You see what I'm saying? They're only found by archaeologists and paleontologists. I mean, it's just kind of weird. I don't know.
Damn, dude, you went off.
Oh, because dinosaurs piss me off. I mean, where's the pterodactyls? Oh, they died too. They were in the air. Think of how some of these ones they make up. They just throw saurus on the back of some crazy word. Applesaurus. I mean, the names are ridiculous. Why can't we just call it like, the bony guy or, the long neck monster or whatever? We got to use all this sophisticated words so the average person, again, looks like a fool when they talk about it. Again, this is all by design. It's ego driven. Well, I'm going to think about the most complicated word I can throw in front of saurus.
Not true.
What do you mean it's not true?
That one. Well, I don't know. Honestly, I don't take issue with a lot of the things you said. I think it's.
Thank you.
It's to consider something that I've never fucking heard. I've never ever heard anyone even hint at the idea that dinosaurs didn't exist. Never. And that's what I love about you. And also I think the thing that I like when you say these things and then I like as a novice who doesn't, I'm not ready to sit here and defend it because to me at the same time, I've just been told it as well. Like I would be an amazing thing to do for this show as it evolves is for me to get my astronaut's license and go to space and take a picture of the round Earth, find a dinosaur in my backyard, just to do these things. Because what I'm saying is I don't have any first-hand accounts on any of this shit. So how am I going to sit here in any sort of place and say that's not true because I haven't experienced it? So it's a liberating place to like be able to just be like, yeah, maybe. Like I don't know.
Yeah, but why do you defend the other side then? You say, well, I personally believe that evolution started in the prehistoric era with dinosaurs, and that's your stance.
Because
you need to come over to my side.
Because if there's only two choices, and one
Right.
being evolution or just this random God creating everything, heaven and earth, I don't know. For whatever reason, I just feel more comfortable with the evolution one.
And I'm not saying it's just a random God. I already said that there could be multiple things. There could be some sort of alien invention with the Anunnaki messing with people's DNA at a primate level, and then our brain size doubled. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, I lean towards a different, I guess, a different way of how we came about as opposed to evolution. I just think that was a good idea, but I just don't think it's the real idea. I don't think that's really where we came from. I don't think it's just as clean and simple as that. And again, I think, like you said, we're human beings and our ego leads us to believe that we're right all the time and we got everything figured out. And when you go back to saying things like, spirituality and demons, I think the world is a very complicated place with multi layers to it, like an onion, and we're so dumb and just are to the point where we evolve. We think that we have all these great. I mean, look at us, dude. Our skin is weak. It gets burned. It's easily cut. We're easily injured. Our bones are fragile. We can only see in a couple light spectrums when animals can see in. I mean, there's shit going on right now. I'm going to just go back real quick. We got a couple minutes here. I'm going to tell you an interesting story. You guys can Google this on your own. There was this story about a fighter pilot, and I don't remember what war it was, but it goes back a little bit. I want to say Vietnam, and he was giving these special night vision goggles, and on the goggles was a red lens. Now, what he states is that this red lens allowed him to see in a light spectrum that human beings generally can't see, and what he saw was horrific. He said outside of his plane window, he saw what he says, flying demons, and all these different entities flying about and moving about that are just part of our daily world in another level, another layer that just constantly are moving around. And he was, this guy is a legitimate, fighter pilot or military guy, and he had a story. And then they claimed that they replicated these glasses that the government had, and I'm trying to remember what the glasses were called because it was a code name. And it's a very interesting story, but my point being is that we're limited to what we can see, and I think there's a multi-layers out there when you talk about demons and stuff. That's just what we call them, but I do believe there's entities or spirits that we don't have the ability to see these things. So again, we're very meek species, I mean, we're at the bottom of the food chain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, that's how I look at it. I think there's, spiritual entities, call them aliens, whatever, but there's other things going on out there that we're just not aware of because we're so confident that we have it all figured out. We don't have anything figured out. We don't have nothing. We can't even figure out our own lives, on a day-to-day basis. But we have the universe figured out. 4 billion years, we're traveling 1 million miles an hour, we're going through. Just stop it. I mean, it's just a lot of it just seems made up. You have to agree with me on that.
I agree. I agree to the sense that we don't know anything, and it's preposterous to assume we do. It's hubris is the word, where you would say that you got it figured out.
Perfect.
And anyone who does is full of themselves and has a lot of ego. I think it's interesting to discover people who are willing to say, I don't know, and I'm open. And I think that that's hopefully the people who listen to this show, because, you bring up some stuff that I think would potentially just make somebody say, nope, not into it. And that sucks. Like, that sucks to me. And other than you, aside from you being my brother, who I love, I am willing to sit here and entertain stuff that is out of the common thought, because why not? Because at the end of the day, nobody knows anything. So why not throw an extra thing into the pot? It's fun. I love it.
Yeah, it's good thought experiments. And again, using critical thinking, it opens up people's minds, and then maybe you'll discover something on your own that you didn't think of before.
Yes,
it's just planting seeds. Yes, just planting seeds. Yep, that's it.
So you today telling somebody that dinosaurs don't exist might lead them to have some kind of revelation that has nothing to do with the dinosaurs because they thought to think differently.
Perfect. That's all I'm trying to do. Provoke thought.
Yes. Well done. Okay, we're going to end it here.
All right.
Great job. Great episode.
Thanks. You kind of look like
everybody.
Yeah, you look a bit like Bin Laden a little bit. You got the white hat.
Like Bin Laden.
White hat, black hat. Kind of weird.
Well, God bless America.
There you go.
Okay. Goodbye.
Are we done?